Beneath our world lies a hidden architecture of the dead. An ancient poem from Mesopotamia describes it as a house without light, where dust is the only food and clay the only sustenance. This is the Underworld, a realm imagined by nearly every culture on Earth. By the end of this journey, you will see the universal blueprint connecting all these afterlives, a discovery that reshapes our understanding of human nature itself. Why do cultures separated by oceans and millennia picture their hells with such similar gates, judges, and rivers? What do these repeating designs tell us about our own deepest fears? What would you expect to find in the world beneath your feet? This underworld blueprint begins with a civilization that saw the universe itself as a state to be governed. For the people of ancient Mesopotamia, the land of the dead was not a dark pit but a sprawling, fortified city, a grim metropolis named Urkala. Its very name, the Great Below, evokes a vast subterranean realm. Imagine a city built not for the living, but designed for an eternal population of shades. Its foundations were laid not on stone, but on a profound and sobering belief. The Mesopotamians viewed death as a democratic and inescapable leveler. Kings and commoners, heroes and servants, all shared the same bleak fate in this dusty domain. It was a place of pure existence, stripped of the passions and pains of life, where the dead lived on as faint echoes of their former selves. The architecture of Urkala reflects this chilling equality. It was described as a house with no exit, a place where inhabitants were clothed only in wings like birds, a haunting image of souls stripped to their barest essence. This was not a realm of moral punishment in a later religious sense, but one of cosmic order. Its design served a single, unifying purpose: to contain the vast population of the deceased and maintain the balance between the world above and the world below. The blueprint for this city of the dead reveals a foundational layer of our shared human imagination, a first attempt to map the uncharted territory of the soul. The gates of Urkala were not mere stone and timber. They were a system, a spiritual bureaucracy designed to process souls. This process is laid bare in the harrowing journey of the goddess Inanna, a queen of the heavens who dared to descend into the great below. Her story provides the oldest known floor plan for the underworld. At each of the 7 gates barring her path, she is confronted by a stern gatekeeper. She is forced to surrender a piece of her divine regalia, her magnificent crown, her lapis lazuli necklace, her sparkling jewels, and finally the very royal robe that signifies her station. By the time she passes the final gate, she is naked and bowed, stripped of every symbol that defined her power and identity in the world above. This is the core architecture of Urkala. It is a machine for unmasking, a realm whose design enforces a profound and terrifying equality through loss. The ruler of this domain is the formidable goddess Ereshkigal, who embodies the absolute and impartial nature of death itself. Her city is a place of no return, not because of physical walls, but because of these psychological gates. They are the ultimate barriers, ensuring that no one, not even a goddess, can bring the privileges of life into the land of the dead. This Mesopotamian blueprint established a theme that would resonate for millennia. The underworld is not just a location, it is a transformative journey, a systematic dismantling of the self. From this stark, dusty metropolis, the very idea of the afterlife as an architectural construct began to flow like a great river toward the lush green banks of another ancient land. From the dusty, democratic city of Urkala, the blueprint for the afterlife flows down the Nile into a world of cosmic geometry. The Egyptian Jewat was not a dark pit of despair, but a beautifully ordered mirror of the heavens. This was a realm of precise calculations and celestial cycles, where the architecture of the underworld was mapped with the rigor of a master astronomer. Its design was so intricate that the Egyptians left behind detailed guidebooks for the dead, texts like the Jewat and the Book of Gates. These were not mere collections of myths, but literal floor plans for eternity. They chart the sun god Ra's perilous nightly voyage through 12 cavernous regions, each one corresponding to a single hour of the night. Imagine navigating a landscape that changes its fundamental nature with every passing moment, where each new gate leads to a completely different cosmic district. The soul of the deceased, often a pharaoh hoping to join Ra, had to act as a navigator on this divine river. The challenges were immense, with each gate guarded by specific deities and monstrous sentinels whose true names had to be known and spoken aloud. The most formidable of these was Apep, the great serpent of chaos, who sought to devour the sun bark and plunge the universe into eternal disorder. Here, the architecture is not just stone and water, it is magical and textual. A spell was not a prayer, it was a key. Knowing the correct incantation to appease a gatekeeper was as crucial as knowing the path itself. This reveals an underworld designed to be navigated, but only by those who possessed the sacred knowledge and ritual purity to maintain Mot, the sacred principle of cosmic order. Success in the Jewat was a testament to one's alignment with the universe itself. Where the Mesopotamian model enforced equality through loss, the Egyptian system introduced the possibility of a successful journey, a cyclical passage through a perilous but conquerable landscape. This profound shift in design from a static city to a dynamic, navigable realm sets the stage for another great civilization, one that would add a new, deeply personal layer to the underworld's architecture. But the Egyptian pursuit of order finds its starkest contrast across the Mediterranean. The Greek underworld, known as Hades, is not a single city or a navigable river, but an entire nation, meticulously zoned into districts of eternal reward or punishment. Its architecture is a direct physical manifestation of a new and powerful idea, divine justice. The journey begins not with a gate, but with a river. The river Styx forms a liquid boundary, a solemn oath of the gods made manifest as a physical barrier. To cross its dark waters, a soul needed the service of the grim ferryman Charon, and the price was a single coin placed on the tongue of the deceased during burial. This simple, transactional step creates a profound liminal space, a checkpoint where the journey itself is contingent on the proper rites observed by the living. Failure to pay meant 100 years of wandering the shore, a ghost trapped in the architecture's lobby. Once across, the soul would stand before 3 judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus, who held the ledger of a person's life. Their verdict did not send you to a single destination, but assigned you to a specific eternal neighborhood. For the vast majority of ordinary souls, there was the Asphodel Meadows, a gray and forgetful plain where shades drifted like smoke, a place of utter mediocrity. For those whose lives were defined by the torment of unrequited love, there were the mourning fields, an elegant prison of memory. For the heroic and the virtuous, the gates to the Elysian fields opened, a paradise of ease and comfort. And for the truly wicked, for those who challenged the gods, there was the deep, sealed abyss of Tartarus, a dungeon of perpetual, poetic torment. This tiered realm is a perfect map of Greek values, where the landscape itself enforces a moral hierarchy. The architecture of Hades serves to categorize and contain, reflecting a societal belief that your actions have direct, spatial consequences in the afterlife. It perfects the idea of a segmented underworld, a system built not just for containment, but for judgment. From this sun-drenched realm of clear-cut justice, our journey turns toward a colder, more rugged landscape, where the architecture of the afterlife is built not for eternity, but for an inevitable final battle. While the Greeks built a moral metropolis and the Egyptians a cosmic circuit, the Norse carved their underworld from ice and mist. High in the frozen branches of the world tree, Yggdrasil, lay not one but many afterlives. Among them, Helheim stands apart, a hall not for heroes but for the dishonored dead. This was the destination for those who succumbed to sickness or the slow creep of age, a fate considered inglorious in a culture that celebrated death in battle. Its ruler is the chilling figure of Hel, a goddess whose body is half living flesh and half corpse blue, a being who perfectly embodies her realm's nature. Her great hall is named Eldjudnir, a word that translates to damp with sleet, and this is not merely a description of weather but of its very essence. Imagine a vast, cold feasting hall where the air itself is a damp chill, and the atmosphere is one of perpetual, quiet stagnation. The architecture of Helheim is one of profound separation. It is encircled by a towering wall and a moat formed by a river so sluggish it seems to barely flow. These are not defensive structures to prevent escape, for the dead here are not prisoners in a traditional sense. Instead, they are monumental statements of exclusion, designed to emphasize that this is a place set apart, a waiting room for those who did not meet the culture's highest ideal. The realm's design is a direct reflection of Norse social values, where heroic action was paramount and a peaceful death was a mark of obscurity. This stratified afterlife adds a new, stark layer to our blueprint, showing how the underworld's architecture can enforce a society's definition of honor. From the frozen, stratified north, our journey takes a dramatic turn to the lush, vibrant, and perilous lands of the Maya. The road to Zibalba descends through a damp ravine, a path so treacherous it is lined with sharp thorns and guarded by rushing rivers of blood and pus. This is no silent city of dust, but a vibrant, sinister palace teeming with life, or rather, a twisted imitation of it. The Maya underworld was a court, a bustling political center ruled by a pantheon of death gods with names that echo their purpose: one death and seven death. Their domain was not a place of final judgment, but of endless, malicious games. The true architectural horror of Zibalba was its labyrinth of specialized houses, each a perfect death trap designed to exploit a specific primal fear. The dark house was a chamber of absolute, suffocating blackness. The rattling house echoed with a deafening clamor that could shatter the mind. The jaguar house swarmed with savage beasts, the bat house with flying blades, and the razor house was lined with moving knives that filled the air. This was not an architecture of containment or cosmic order, but one of psychological warfare. The lords of Zibalba delighted in summoning heroes to their court only to defeat them through deception and these impossible challenges. In the Popol the divine twins Hunahpu and Xbalanque do not overcome these houses through brute force, but through cleverness, using resources like fireflies to light the darkness and coaxing the bats to sleep. The entire realm was a test of wit and resilience against a system rigged for your failure. Zibalba's blueprint reveals an underworld built on the fear of not just death, but of humiliation and intellectual defeat. It is a stark contrast to the ordered scales of other cultures, presenting the afterlife as a hostile, interactive puzzle. This vision of a deceptive labyrinth gives way to a far more bureaucratic system, one where the architecture of the afterlife is built around a single, terrifying ledger and the meticulous accounting of a soul. In the Buddhist cosmos, the underworld is not a dungeon but a cosmic engine of cause and effect. Naraka is a system of hells built on a foundation of absolute moral mathematics. Picture not one realm of punishment, but a vast, self-correcting network of them, often detailed as 8 searing hot hells and 8 freezing cold ones, each with its own gruesome suburbs. The architecture here is purely functional, designed for a single, precise purpose: to exhaust negative karma through direct, experiential consequence. A being who spread hatred might find themselves in a hell where the very air is a weapon, or one who inflicted cold-hearted cruelty could be reborn into a frozen wasteland where the body cracks and shatters. The descriptions are terrifyingly specific, down to the texture of the molten iron ground and the length of a single day, which can span thousands of earthly years. This is not the work of a vengeful god, but the impersonal, inevitable result of one's own actions. The entire complex operates on the core principle that every cause has an effect, and the architecture of Naraka is that effect made physically real. Yet, this is not a sentence of eternal damnation. It is a purgatorial sentence, a brutal but finite period of purification. After an almost unimaginable eon of suffering, when the negative karma is finally spent, a being can die from that hell and be reborn elsewhere in the cycle of existence. This introduces a revolutionary idea to our blueprint, the concept of a temporary, self-liquidating underworld, a cosmic recycling plant for the soul. This cyclical view finds a powerful echo in another Eastern tradition, one that envisions a bureaucratic court where every life is weighed on a celestial scale. Yet beneath the cold mechanics of karmic accounting lies a vision of staggering complexity. Hindu cosmology presents not one underworld, but a divided realm, an architectural marvel split between consequence and opulent refuge. On one hand stands Naraka, a system of purgatorial hells overseen by the stern god Yama. As the first mortal to die, Yama became the king of the dead, a divine judge who weighs a soul's actions with unwavering precision. His realm is one of justice, where the consequences of one's deeds are experienced directly and fully. But this is only half of the story. Deeper still lies Patala, the seventh and lowest layer of the underworld. This is not a dungeon but a parallel universe of breathtaking splendor. Imagine cities built from glittering jewels and palaces that outshine the heavens themselves. Patala is the home of the Nagas, the powerful serpent deities, and the Daityas, a race of formidable demons. It is a realm of immense power and beauty, a society thriving completely separate from the world above. This dual architecture reveals a profound philosophical depth. The Hindu underworld is not simply a place of punishment, it is a complete cosmic ecosystem. It accommodates both the necessity of moral retribution in Naraka and the existence of other sovereign realities in Patala. This model expands the very function of the world below, transforming it from a mere destination for the dead into a layered universe with its own inhabitants and rules. This intricate vision of a divided subterranean world would eventually flow westward, its core ideas of judgment and a layered afterlife profoundly shaping the bedrock of a new global faith. Dante Alighieri gave hell an address and a floor plan. His Divine Comedy transformed the formless abyss of earlier traditions into a structured, layered descent, a meticulously engineered inversion of the divine. This underworld is a colossal funnel, a pit bored deep into the earth, its architecture segmented into 9 precise circles. Each level is a district of eternal consequence, its punishment perfectly tailored to the sin it houses. This is the principle of Contrapasso, where the architecture of torment is a direct reflection of the crime. The gluttonous lie in a putrid slush battered by ceaseless rain, a mockery of their self-indulgence. The violent are submerged in a river of boiling blood, and in the very bottom circle, a frozen lake named Cocytus holds the ultimate betrayers, trapped for eternity in ice, their tears freezing solid in a perfect symbol of their cold-hearted deeds. This was not merely a poet's dark fantasy, it was a masterwork of theological engineering. Dante's Inferno served as a terrifyingly vivid map for the medieval mind, making abstract sin tangible and its consequences unforgettable. The architecture itself became a sermon, a stone and fire declaration of a moral universe where every action had its precise, spatial consequence. This literary masterpiece codified the underworld as a hierarchical prison, a concept that would echo for centuries. But what happens when the journey to the land of the dead is not a one-way descent into a fixed structure, but a dangerous, shamanic voyage that can be undertaken by the living? While Dante mapped a prison of stone, another tradition charts an underworld of living roots. Across the vast expanses of Siberia and into the heartlands of the Americas, a different blueprint emerges, one where the world below is not a destination for the dead but a wellspring of power for the living. This is the shamanic underworld, a realm within a three-tiered cosmos that includes the middle world of everyday reality and the upper world of celestial spirits. Here, the lower world is not a place of punishment but a vibrant landscape of healing and profound connection. Its architecture is not carved from judgmental stone but grown from the earth itself, a limitless expanse of deep forests, sun-dappled plains, and sacred caves. This is a realm teeming with life, inhabited by powerful animal spirits and ancestral guides who offer their wisdom not to judges but to seekers. The shaman's journey into this depth is a deliberate voyage, undertaken in a trance state induced by drumming or ritual. Their purpose is not to be sentenced but to mend what is broken. They might descend to retrieve a piece of a person's soul that has been lost to trauma, to diagnose a spiritual illness, or to gain knowledge from the earth's own memory. The very design of this underworld is organic and fluid, often shaped by the shaman's own consciousness and the specific needs of the quest. There may be a central world tree whose roots offer an anchor, or a river that must be respectfully crossed, but these are not fixed barriers or checkpoints. They are pathways and tools for navigation in a realm built on relationship. This vision presents the subterranean world as a source of life and regeneration, a vital counterpoint to the punitive models of organized religion. It is an architecture not of containment, but of resource, where the deepest layers of existence are seen as benevolent and accessible to those who know how to listen. This perspective of a living, helpful underworld challenges the very foundations of our shared blueprint, suggesting that the land of the dead might also be the ultimate source of life. Mictlan offers no judgment, only a slow and systematic erasure. For the Aztecs, this 9-layered realm was the final destination for those who died of sickness or old age, a fate shared by the vast majority. Its architecture was not a static location but a grueling 4-year process, a descent through a series of brutal, natural obstacles designed to methodically unravel a soul's identity. The journey began with a passage between two mountains that crashed together with relentless force, a test demanding agility and perhaps a metaphor for the crushing pressures of leaving the world. Next, the soul encountered a massive river that could only be crossed on the back of a small, yellow dog, a companion chosen carefully during one's life through specific funeral rites. This was not a ferryman demanding a coin, but a creature offering passage based on a bond forged in the world above. The challenges grew more abstract and punishing, leading the soul through a place where an icy wind hurled volleys of sharp, cutting stones, and through a series of other ordeals that stripped away every memory and attachment. The final destination was Chikanamictlan, the place of absolute oblivion, ruled by the skeletal lord Mictlantecuhtli and his consort. Here, the soul achieved its ultimate purpose, not punishment or paradise, but complete dissolution into the cosmic silence. The entire structure of Mictlan served as a great recycler, breaking down individual consciousness to feed the universal cycle of energy. This vision presents an underworld where the architecture is the journey itself, a gauntlet of forgetting. Such terrifying realms are never left unguarded, and the entities that patrol their borders form a chilling taxonomy of their own. These guardians are never stationed at random posts. They are the living, breathing locks on the door to eternity. Think of the Greek ferryman Charon, a figure so entrenched in his role that he became a permanent fixture of the riverbank. He was not a monster, but a functionary, a celestial toll booth operator demanding his single coin. His presence transformed death from a spiritual event into a logistical one, where a successful passage depended as much on the preparations of the living as on the soul of the deceased. Contrast this with his colleague, the three-headed hound Cerberus. Where Charon controlled entry, Cerberus enforced the finality of the exit. His brute strength and fearsome form were a pure, physical guarantee that the rules of the underworld could not be broken. He was the ultimate warden, a beast whose very design screamed that this was a one-way journey. This need for a dual security system, one bureaucratic and one bestial, reveals a deep-seated anxiety about maintaining order in the realm of chaos. The Egyptian underworld took this bureaucratic impulse to its most elaborate extreme. Before a soul could even hope to join the sun god on his boat, it had to stand in the Hall of Two Truths. There, it wasn't confronted by a single judge, but by a committee of 42 divine assessors. Each one represented a specific sin or moral failing, from falsehood to theft to gluttony. The deceased had to address each god by name and proclaim their innocence against that specific transgression. This was not a trial by jury, but a trial by ledger, a spiritual audit where the soul's own heart was weighed against the feather of truth. The monster Amit, the devourer, waited beside the scales, part lion, part hippo, part crocodile, a composite nightmare designed for a single function. A heavy heart would be thrown to her, and the soul would cease to exist. Here, the guardians are the system itself, a perfect machine of divine accountability. The Maya lords of Zibalba, however, were masters of a different kind of control. They were not impartial judges or simple gatekeepers, but cruel aristocrats who used psychological manipulation as their primary tool. They didn't just block the path, they invited you in only to humiliate and destroy you. Their guardianship was based on deception, turning the very architecture of their court into a series of lethal tricks. This stands in stark contrast to the solitary guardian of the Norse bridge to hell. The maiden Mathgatha, whose name means furious battle, is a figure of immense and grim duty. She questions every soul that crosses the golden bridge over the river Yerl, her voice echoing with the weariness of her eternal watch. She is not a monster, but a stern sentinel, embodying the Norse respect for a task faithfully performed, even when that task is guiding the dead to a realm of cold obscurity. Whether a beast, a bureaucrat, or a trickster, every guardian serves the same ultimate purpose. They are the personification of the barrier itself, the final test that severs the soul from the world of the living. And the very first barrier a soul often encounters is not a gate or a beast, but a body of water. A river forms the most ancient and universal moat for the land of the dead. These rivers are the liquid architecture of the soul's transition, flowing with meaning instead of water. In the Greek conception, the 5 rivers of Hades each channel a different emotional state associated with death. The Styx, the river of hate, forms the primary boundary, its waters once the unbreakable oath of the gods. The Akron carries the weight of woe, a current of pure sorrow. The Phlegethon blazes with fire, a torrent of either torment or perhaps purification. The Cocytus echoes with endless lamentation, and the Lethe offers the ultimate release of forgetfulness. To drink from the Lethe was to have your earthly memories washed away, a necessary precursor to reincarnation in some beliefs. This was not random geography. It was a masterfully designed emotional landscape where the very process of dying was broken down into its core components and given a physical form to be crossed. The journey across these waters was never a simple swim. It required a guide, the ferryman Charon, and a toll, the coin placed on the tongue. This transaction underscores a profound truth. The passage into the afterlife was a cooperative effort between the living and the dead, a ritual that had to be performed correctly to ensure a successful transition. This theme of the river as a punishing medium finds its starkest form in the Hindu Vaitana. This is not a boundary to be crossed, but a river of pure filth, blood, and pus that the sinful soul is forced to wade through, its foulness a direct manifestation of their own moral corruption. Here, the river is not a gateway but the punishment itself. Whether as a barrier, a trial, or a cleanser, these waterways serve as the moats of the soul's final castle, forcing a definitive break from the world of the living. And where there is a moat, the mind naturally builds a bridge. A bridge can be the final verdict. In the Zoroastrian vision of the afterlife, the soul does not face a ferryman but approaches the Chinvat bridge, a structure that senses the very essence of a person's life. For the righteous, this bridge of the separator transforms into a wide, welcoming path, 9 spears across, leading effortlessly to the house of song. But for the wicked, it turns razor-thin, the edge of a blade. They lose their balance, tumbling from that impossible edge into a deep abyss of darkness and torment. This is not a judgment delivered by a committee of gods, but one enacted by the landscape itself, an architecture that responds directly to the soul's inner truth. It is the ultimate fine line made terrifyingly real. This theme of the precarious crossing echoes in the Norse Zibalba, the golden bridge that spans the thunderously loud river Jewat. Its purpose is not to judge, but to mark the definitive passage into Helheim, a threshold guarded by the solitary, vigilant Marthgather. While less morally responsive than the Chinvat bridge, its very existence creates a critical choke point, a formalized structure that underscores the finality of the journey. The soul has moved from the realm of the living to a domain with its own rules and gatekeepers. In stark contrast, the passages to the shamanic underworld are often organic and hidden. A crack in a rock, the hollow of an ancient tree, or the mouth of a cave can serve as the portal. These are not tests of moral worth but secret gateways known only to the initiated. The difficulty lies not in crossing, but in finding the entrance and having the spiritual fortitude to navigate the vibrant, living realm that lies beyond. Whether it is a bridge that judges, a bridge that separates, or a route that descends, the design of these passages reveals a culture's deepest beliefs about the soul's journey. A formal, imposing bridge suggests a cosmic system of justice, while a natural portal implies a world accessible through knowledge and relationship. Each narrow path is a physical expression of the transition's peril, a final, focused moment where eternity hangs in the balance. And waiting at the end of that passage, in the very heart of the underworld, is the throne room of its master. The throne room of the underworld is its absolute center of gravity. Each ruler's hall is a perfect expression of their domain's purpose and personality. Hades, the Greek lord of the unseen, did not reside in a dank cavern, but in a palace of polished obsidian and cold gems. It was a fortress of profound wealth, reflecting his title as the god of the earth's precious metals, yet it was a wealth that brought no warmth or light. Its opulence was sterile, a monument to the finality of his rule. Far to the north, in the frozen Norse realm of Helheim, stood the Hall Eldjudnir. Its name meaning damp with sleet describes not just its walls but its very atmosphere. This was a place of high walls and a massive door, not to keep prisoners in, but to enforce a state of cold, passive existence. Within, the sensation was one of perpetual hunger and enervation, a chilling reflection of its half-corpse ruler's nature. A different kind of authority presided in the Hindu Yamaloka. This was not a hall of torment, but a cosmic courthouse. Here, the god Yama, the first mortal to die, holds his administrative court. The emphasis is on judgment as a bureaucratic process, a meticulous weighing of accounts in the great ledger of a soul's life. The architecture here is functional and severe, designed for the sober business of cosmic justice. Then there is the deceptive court of the Maya lords of Zibalba. Their central council chamber is a place of shadows and false hospitality. a dark palace from which they issue cunning invitations to heroes, only to trap them in their lethal game houses. This throne room is a theater of psychological warfare, its design meant to disorient and humiliate, whether through sterile wealth, chilling stagnation, bureaucratic order, or malicious trickery. The design of the ruler's hall dictates the experience of every soul within its jurisdiction. It is the source from which all other structures in the underworld draw their meaning. And just as these central palaces enforce their rule, the realms they govern are meticulously divided into specialized districts of eternal consequence. A soul's final neighborhood is determined by a verdict more binding than any earthly law. This moment of judgment transforms the underworld's architecture from a simple container into a perfect mirror of a culture's conscience. In ancient Egypt, this verdict unfolded in the Hall of Two Truths, a divine courtroom where the deceased's heart was placed on a golden scale against the feather of Mot, the symbol of cosmic truth and order. It was a silent, terrifyingly precise measurement. If the heart, heavy with deceit and sin, dragged the scale down, the monstrous Ammit waited to devour it, ending the soul's existence. But a heart in balance with the feather earned passage to the field of reeds, an eternal, idealized version of Egypt itself, where the blessed dead farmed abundant fields under a perpetual sun. This was not a mystical paradise of clouds and harps, but the ultimate reward for an Egyptian, a perfect, endless version of the life they knew and cherished. This system of divine justice finds a powerful echo in the Zoroastrian Chinvat bridge, a structure that judged a soul by its very essence. For the righteous, the bridge widened into a path 9 spears across, leading to a heavenly existence. For the wicked, it narrowed to a razor's edge, sending them plummeting into a pit of darkness. The bridge itself was the judge, its architecture responding directly to the moral weight of the one who walked it. This concept of a responsive landscape is a profound architectural innovation, making the very fabric of the afterlife an active participant in delivering justice. Later, Christianity would refine this model into a stark, binary division, a cosmic sorting that gave us the enduring archetypes of heaven and hell. Heaven was conceived as a radiant city, the New Jerusalem, with streets of gold and gates of pearl, a place of perfect communion and light. Its opposite, hell, was a realm of eternal separation and torment, often depicted as a lake of fire or a frozen wasteland. This clear division served a powerful theological purpose, creating an unambiguous map of salvation and damnation that shaped centuries of art, literature, and belief. The architecture here is purely ideological, built to illustrate the ultimate consequences of faith and sin. Yet not all judgments are so absolute. The Buddhist and Hindu systems introduce the concept of karma, a cosmic ledger that operates with the impersonal logic of a natural law. Here, the soul is not sent to a single, eternal neighborhood by a divine judge. Instead, its own accumulated actions propel it into a specific realm of existence, which could be a temporary hell, a heavenly pleasure garden, or another life on earth. The underworld, or Naraka, is just one possible destination in a vast cycle of cause and effect. This creates an afterlife architecture that is dynamic and fluid, a complex network of realms functioning as way stations for the soul's long journey toward enlightenment. The zoning is not permanent but instructional, each realm designed to exhaust specific karmic debts. So if the destination is decided by a verdict, what form does that verdict take, and who has the authority to deliver it? This courtroom of the gods is where a life is measured against the cosmos itself. In the silent hall of two truths, the Egyptian soul did not speak in its own defense. Instead, its own heart was placed upon a golden scale, balanced against the single feather of Mot, the embodiment of truth and cosmic order. This was the ultimate audit, a moment where the weight of a lifetime of actions, from kindness to deceit, had a physical mass. There were no arguments, no clever lawyers, only the undeniable evidence of a heart. If it was heavy with sin, it would drag the scale down, and the waiting monster Amit would devour it, ending that soul's existence forever. But a heart in perfect balance allowed passage to the field of reeds, an eternal paradise that mirrored the best of Egypt itself. The entire ceremony was a breathtakingly simple piece of architectural design, turning an abstract moral principle into a physical, visual event anyone could understand. The scales did not lie. Across the ancient world, this need for a tangible verdict took different forms. In the Greek underworld, the recently deceased would stand before three former kings, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aeacus. These were not distant gods but mortal men elevated to the ultimate judicial bench. They would hear the testimony of a life, the good and the bad, and their ruling was not about salvation or damnation in a binary sense, but about proper placement. Their verdict assigned you to your correct eternal neighborhood, whether that was the bliss of Elysium, the gloom of Asphodel, or the torments of Tartarus. This was a system of divine zoning, where the judges acted as expert urban planners for the city of the dead. Perhaps the most elegant judgment architecture is the Zoroastrian Chinvat Bridge. This structure is the judge. As a soul approaches, the bridge itself senses the moral weight of a lifetime of thoughts, words, and deeds. For the righteous, it widens into a broad, welcoming avenue. For the wicked, it narrows to a razor's edge, causing them to lose their balance and fall into the abyss. Here, the landscape is the court, and the soul's own essence triggers the verdict. These judgment scenes, from scales to thrones to bridges, all serve the same profound purpose. They transform the frightening uncertainty of death into a process. They assure the living that existence is not random, that actions have consequences, and that the universe, in its own way, is keeping score. But what happens to a soul that is found wanting, yet not entirely lost? After the gavel of judgment falls, a different kind of architectural space awaits, one designed not for eternity, but for transformation. Even the most merciful judgment can require a painful renovation of the soul. For countless souls, the afterlife is not a final verdict but a construction site, a temporary realm where the architecture is engineered not for punishment but for profound repair. This is the blueprint of the Purgatorial realm, a space designed for purification. In the Catholic tradition, purgatory stands as the ultimate intermediate state. It is not a dungeon of despair but a hospital for the soul. Here, those who died in a state of grace, yet still carried the stains of venial sins and worldly attachments, undergo a necessary cleansing. Dante Alighieri, the great architect of the afterlife, envisioned this not as a pit but as a magnificent mountain rising from the sea. Its design is one of deliberate ascent. 7 terraces spiral around the mountain, each one corresponding to one of the 7 deadly sins. On the terrace of pride, souls bend beneath the crushing weight of heavy stones, learning humility. On the terrace of envy, their eyes are sewn shut with iron wire, forcing an inward gaze. Each level is a school for the spirit, where suffering is not an end in itself, but a precise tool for scraping away imperfections. The entire structure is built on hope, for every soul is certain of their eventual ascent to paradise. This stands in stark contrast to the Buddhist understanding of Naraka. While some of these hells are places of intense, temporary torment for exhausting negative karma, the broader system includes other lower realms, like the hungry ghost realm, that function as purgatorial waystations. A being consumed by insatiable greed in life might be reborn as a hungry ghost, with a needle-thin throat and a vast, bloated belly, forever tortured by cravings it can never satisfy. This existence is a direct, experiential lesson in the consequences of attachment, a state that continues not for eternity, but only until that specific karmic debt is paid. The architecture here is the condition of the being itself, a temporary prison of its own making. Even the harrowing 9-level descent through the Aztec Mictlan can be viewed through this lens. It was a 4-year gauntlet of forgetting, a brutal process that systematically stripped away a soul's identity, attachment by attachment, until only the raw essence remained for cosmic recycling. The rivers, the icy winds, the crashing mountains, these were not punishments for moral failings, but the necessary machinery for dismantling the self. What unites these diverse realms is a shared architectural principle of progression. Unlike the static despair of hell or the finished perfection of heaven, these are dynamic spaces. Their very design facilitates movement, growth, and cleansing. They represent a more nuanced and merciful vision of cosmic justice, one that acknowledges human frailty and offers a path to redemption. This concept of a temporary, transformative underworld naturally points toward an even more fluid system, where the soul's journey is not a one-time event, but an endless cycle of departure and return. Some underworlds are not final destinations, but cosmic transit hubs. Their architecture is built for motion, not for permanence. In the vast systems of Hinduism and Buddhism, the many realms of existence, from the blissful heavens to the torturous Narakas, are all temporary births on a much longer journey. This is the wheel of Samsara, the endless cycle of death and rebirth. A soul might spend an eon in a realm of icy torment or celestial pleasure, but this is never a permanent address. The entire stay is dictated by the impersonal mathematics of karma. Once the specific karma that propelled the soul there is exhausted, the being dies from that afterlife and is born again elsewhere. The architecture of these realms is purely functional, like a factory designed to process and purify raw materials. The hells are not dungeons of eternal vengeance but intense, finite schools where the soul experiences the direct consequences of its actions to learn, to cleanse, and to move on. This idea of the underworld as a preparatory stage echoes in the ancient Greek mystery cults, particularly the Orphic tradition. For its initiates, the afterlife was not a static judgment but a path of purification. The underworld became a place where the soul, through ritual and ordeal, could be cleansed of its earthly stains, drink from the pool of memory, and ultimately escape the cycle of rebirth to achieve unity with the divine. In both of these systems, the design philosophy shifts dramatically. The goal is not to build a perfect eternal city for the dead, but to create an efficient, transformative system that manages the soul's progress. Stairs replace thrones and processing plants replace palaces. This cyclical model integrates the underworld into the very rhythm of the universe, making it a vital organ in a living, breathing cosmos, constantly recycling spiritual energy. These architectural forms are never arbitrary. They are a language, a code of profound symbols waiting to be deciphered. These structures are not just stone and water, they are a symbolic language. The gate is the most fundamental of these symbols, a universal sign for a threshold. Passing through an underworld gate is never a simple act of walking. It is a ritual of transformation, an irrevocable step from one state of being to another. Inanna surrendering her crown at the first of 7 gates, the soul paying Charon to cross the river Styx. These are not just obstacles. They are ceremonies of separation. The gate slams shut on the life that was, enforcing the ultimate rule of the land of the dead. There is no return. This idea of a one-way threshold speaks to a core human anxiety about the finality of death, the point of no return that every culture has tried to map and define. But what happens after you cross that threshold? You often find yourself not in a simple chamber, but in a labyrinth. The twisting, deceptive palace of the Maya Xibalba, with its specialized houses of terror, is a perfect example. A labyrinth is more than a maze. It is a symbol for the soul's own confusion and search for meaning in the face of the incomprehensible. It represents the journey where the old maps no longer work, where intuition and cleverness, like that of the hero twins, are the only tools for survival. The path is never straight because death itself is the ultimate riddle, and at the heart of this perilous journey often lies a mirror. In the silent hall of two truths, the scales that weighed the Egyptian heart were a kind of mirror, reflecting the unvarnished truth of a life lived. The still, dark waters of the river Lethe offered a reflection of forgetting. The underworld itself, in many traditions, is framed as a distorted reflection of the world above, a dark echo where the familiar is made strange and terrifying. These reflective surfaces force a confrontation with the self, stripping away the lies we tell ourselves and presenting the soul with its own stark reality. Yet connecting all these realms from the deepest pit to the highest heaven is perhaps the most profound symbol of all, the world tree. In Norse cosmology, it is Yggdrasil, the immense ash tree whose roots tap into the wells of fate and knowledge in the underworld, while its branches hold the realms of the gods. In shamanic traditions, it is the axis mundi, the central pole that the spiritual traveler climbs or descends to move between worlds. This is not merely a convenient passage. The world tree is a symbol of cosmic interdependence, a living architecture that proclaims the underworld, the earth, and the heavens are not separate kingdoms, but interconnected layers of a single, unified existence. The roots of life draw nourishment from the land of the dead. These symbols, the gate, the labyrinth, the mirror, and the tree, are the true philosophical blueprints. The physical rivers, judges, and palaces are just the manifestations of these deeper ideas about transition, confusion, truth, and connection. They form a shared psychological vocabulary, a silent language spoken by cultures across oceans and millennia, all trying to build a map for the one journey every human must take. These repeating structures form a kind of psychological grammar for death itself. A river must be crossed, a gate must be passed, a judge must be faced. These are the foundational pillars in the architecture of the afterlife, appearing with such consistency they seem to be written into our collective subconscious. The river, whether it is the Styx or the Vaitana, is the ultimate symbol of separation, a liquid barrier that definitively marks the soul's departure from the world of the living. The gate from Inanna's 7 portals to the pearly gates of heaven represents the threshold of transformation, the point of no return where identity is challenged or stripped away. And the judge, be it Osiris and his scales or the 3 kings of Greece, embodies a universal human craving for moral order, a deep-seated belief that a life must be measured and accounted for. These are not coincidences. They are the universal blueprints, the core components that cultures around the world instinctively reached for when trying to conceptualize the unimaginable. They speak to a shared cognitive toolkit, a set of fundamental human responses to the mysteries of mortality, justice, and transition. Yet, the way each culture decorated this shared framework reveals everything about their unique spirit. The Mesopotamians built a stark, bureaucratic city where the great leveler was dust and forgetfulness, reflecting their view of a cosmos governed by impersonal, administrative forces. The Egyptians, obsessed with celestial cycles and sacred knowledge, designed a magical, text-based underworld where a correctly spoken spell could open a door and the soul could sail with the sun god. Their Jewat was a puzzle to be solved with the right ritual instructions. For the Greeks, the afterlife was a nation zoned by heroic virtue and moral failure, a direct architectural expression of their societal values where your eternal neighborhood was a direct result of your life's actions. And the Aztecs envisioned a process-oriented realm, Mictlan, where the architecture was the grueling, 4-year journey of dissolution itself, mirroring their cyclical view of a universe that consumed and recycled energy. Even the Guardians reflect this cultural imprint. The lone, weary Mathgatha guarding the Norse bridge to Hell embodies a solemn, personal duty, while the 42 divine assessors in the Egyptian Hall of Two Truths represent a sprawling, bureaucratic divine government. These variations are the unique architectural flourishes, the local building materials and decorative styles used to construct a realm every culture knew they would one day inhabit. They show us that while the fear of death and the desire for justice may be universal human traits, our visions of what lies beyond are beautifully, profoundly shaped by the worlds we build here and now. These ancient designs are more than myths. They are a mirror held up to humanity itself, reflecting our deepest anxieties and our highest aspirations across the centuries. Perhaps the most profound underworld lies not beneath our feet, but within our own minds. The stark gates and winding rivers of myth find a startling parallel in the architecture of the human psyche, a realm charted by thinkers like Carl Jung. He proposed that these ancient stories of descent are not about geography, but about a courageous journey into the unconscious. The terrifying guardians at the gate are not external monsters, but our own deep-seated fears and resistances that try to block us from confronting painful truths about ourselves. The labyrinth is the intricate, often confusing maze of our repressed memories and unresolved traumas, a place where we can easily become lost in our own pain. And that final judgment scene, with its scales and solemn judges, mirrors the relentless inner voice of our own conscience, weighing our actions and intentions with unforgiving precision. The entire epic journey, culminating in a return to the world above, becomes a powerful metaphor for psychological integration. It is the process of facing our shadow self, the parts of our personality we deny or repress, and bringing them into the light of awareness to achieve a state of wholeness. From this perspective, the secret architecture of every underworld is really a blueprint for the human soul. These myths provide a timeless symbolic language for the work of personal growth. Confronting the demon Humbaba in a Mesopotamian epic or outwitting the lords of Zibalba is akin to facing our own inner critics or breaking free from self-destructive patterns. The goal is not to slay these parts of ourselves, but to understand them, to integrate them, and to reclaim their energy. This psychological interpretation builds a stunning bridge between ancient campfire stories and modern therapy sessions. It suggests that our ancestors were not just afraid of death, they were intuitively mapping the terrain of inner transformation. So how do these ancient concepts of a subterranean world persist in our modern, seemingly rational era? The ancient blueprints of the underworld did not crumble into dust with the temples of their gods. They found new life in the stories we tell today, their secret architecture hidden in plain sight within our books and screens. J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World presents a stark stone archway known as the Veil, standing silently in a forgotten department of the Ministry of Magic. It is a gateway to the other side, a liminal space that whispers with the voices of the departed. This is not a river or a seven-gated wall, but a direct descendant of those ancient thresholds, a modern gate that still enforces the same ultimate rule of separation and mystery. The video game Hades makes the architecture of the Greek afterlife a tangible, navigable space. You battle your way out from the depths of Tartarus, through the opulent halls of Asphodel, and past the Elysian fields, each biome a perfect visual representation of its mythological purpose. You interact with Charon, paying him coin to purchase power-ups, and face the three judges who comment on your progress. This interactive experience turns the ancient blueprint into a playable landscape, proving its structural logic remains compelling millennia later. Then there are films like What Dreams May Come, where the afterlife is a stunning, fluid landscape painted directly by consciousness. A soul who dies in sadness finds themselves in a world of thick, gray paint, while a soul filled with love inhabits a vibrant, living masterpiece. This vision is a direct echo of the Buddhist realms, where karma manifests as physical reality, and of the psychological models where the inner world becomes the outer terrain. These modern stories are not mere copies. They are proof that the core principles of the Underworld blueprint are a fundamental part of our storytelling DNA. The journey, the gate, the responsive landscape, these are the timeless tools we use to explore our most profound contemporary questions about death, morality, and the nature of consciousness itself. Our newest myths are still built upon the oldest foundations. This enduring influence points toward a single, profound mystery that all these architectures, ancient and modern, seem to be straining to describe. These magnificent underworlds are all elaborate structures built around a single, silent void. The true secret their architecture conceals is not the location of the soul, but the fundamental nature of consciousness itself when the body falls away. All these gates and judges and rivers are a grand collective coping mechanism, a way for the human mind to project a familiar landscape onto the most terrifying frontier of all, the absolute unknown. We cannot comprehend nothingness, so we build cities for the dead. We cannot process the potential randomness of fate, so we install cosmic courts and divine ledgers. The intricate blueprints of Urkala, the Jewat, and Naraka are not maps of a real place, but are instead maps of a profound and universal human question. They hide the abyss behind structured narratives of justice, journey, and order. Is this architecture psychological, a symbolic representation of our inner struggles? Is it spiritual, a genuine glimpse of realms beyond our own, or could it somehow be literal? This is the core mystery that every culture's mythology has attempted to solve in its own way. The very existence of these detailed plans, from the 7 gates of Inanna's descent to the 9 precise circles of Dante's Inferno, stands as a breathtaking testament to humanity's courageous refusal to accept a mystery without first trying to build a house for it. The architecture, in all its varied and glorious forms, is itself the only answer we have ever been able to construct for a question that lies just beyond the reach of words. This recurring 3-part design is the master blueprint of the afterlife. A grand, cross-cultural pattern emerges from the chaos of myth, revealing a unified architecture built from an entrance, a process, and a destination. First, the entrance. This is the threshold, the moment of separation from the world of the living. Whether it is the river Styx demanding a coin, the 7 gates of Urkala stripping away identity, or the simple crack in a rock that serves as a shaman's portal, its function is always the same. It creates a definitive break, a psychological and spiritual border that says you are now leaving the known world behind. Next comes the process, the heart of the Underworld's machinery. This is the journey through the labyrinth, the judgment before the scales or the bench, the purification in the fires of Purgatory or the icy winds of Mictlan. This middle stage is where meaning is manufactured. It enforces a system, be it moral, karmic, or existential, transforming the raw fact of death into a narrative with stakes and consequences. Finally, there is the destination. This is the closure, the ultimate resolution to the soul's journey. It might be the eternal stasis of the asphodel meadows, the blissful rebirth in the field of reeds, the complete dissolution into cosmic silence, or the temporary assignment to a karmic realm. The destination provides the answer to the question posed by death itself. What happens next? This tripartite structure is so consistent because it is not really about the afterlife. It is about the human mind, confronted with the terrifying void of non-existence. Our consciousness instinctively builds a story. We cannot comprehend an ending without a final chapter, so we write one. The entrance is the gripping first line, the process is the twisting plot, and the destination is the concluding page that gives the entire story its meaning. We have all been using the same fundamental narrative blueprint for millennia, simply decorating it with the gods, monsters, and landscapes unique to our time and place. The secret architecture of the underworld is, in the end, the architecture of story itself, a primordial framework we use to build a bridge over the abyss. Our journey ends where every map of the afterlife begins, with the human heart. We have walked through the dusty gates of Urkala, navigated the starry currents of the Jewat, and stood in judgment before the thrones of Hades. We have braved the trickster halls of Zibalba and felt the chilling stillness of Helheim. And in every one of these realms, from the frozen pits of Naraka to the hopeful mountain of Purgatory, we found the same foundational pillars. A river that must be crossed, a gate that must be passed, a judge that must be faced. This is the universal language of the soul, a symbolic architecture built from our collective need to find meaning in the great unknown. These structures are not random. They are profound reflections of what each culture held most sacred and most terrifying, a grand project of the human spirit to design a home for our final voyage. The Roman poet Virgil once observed that the descent into the underworld is easy, but to retrace your steps and escape back to the upper air, this is the task, this the labor. His words speak to more than a mythical journey. They remind us that the true challenge lies in returning from the depths with a new understanding, having faced the mysteries we build to comprehend our own existence. May this exploration of ancient blueprints inspire you to reflect on the architectures of meaning in your own life. If this journey into the depths has intrigued you, I invite you to delve deeper by subscribing for more mysteries of history and myth. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Which Underworld's design resonates most deeply with you? Share your reflections in the comments below. Thank you for exploring the secret blueprints of eternity.